Hey, come and have a chat with me as we walk in the forestry in a solar eclipse. I just found out last night that there was going to be an eclipse tonight, so I put my walk off until I could get up here. It's supposed to be at 7:05. It's now 8 minutes past, so I think we're at, it's not totality because it's not a total eclipse of the heart. Partial eclipse, I guess they call it. And it feels eerie. And I just walked past a section of track there where there were flying ants. I don't know if that's connected or just coincidence. But Flying Ant Day, remember that from when I was a paper boy back in 85? I think I delivered papers 1984. 85, and one day I remember Flying Ant Day, and there were so many of them, there were clouds of them in my hometown. I was kind of freaked out, you know, it was like something out of a Stephen King novel, or maybe not Stephen King, maybe Clive Barker. Anyway, I thought I'd record just because it's an eclipse, and so it seems interesting and fun to make a video as I walk in this eerie light and talk about books, because that's what I do. So we'll make this a kind of update for, what is it, the day? 12th of August, I think. So I have just been setting up in my Notion database a project, or two projects, one for Anna Karenina and one for Yevgeny Onegin. I'm going to try and call him Yevgeny Onegin for reasons which I'll explain, I'm sure, as I go through the project. Mainly poetry. So that will be running, I think I've decided on September, October for that one. Make it nice and slow and give me time to read around the book and learn more about Pushkin's life and that kind of thing. So I'll just film some of this view for you as I continue chatting. So yeah, Yevgeny Onegin is a novel in verse. I put out a video yesterday announcing the read along, but I didn't specify the dates because I hadn't worked it out yet. So yeah, starting beginning of September and then going through to the end of October. I think that gives me plenty of time. You know, it doesn't seem as dark as I thought it would. It's a shame it's overcast, but you know, what are you going to do? So yeah, 2 months with Yevgeny Onegin. I've got multiple translations, which I enjoy. I'll probably get more. Particularly want to read Nabokov's controversial translation of, was it 1964, I think. He had some opinions, turns out. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And Anna Karenina, I've got scheduled for September to run for 14 months in alignment with the original publishing schedule as it came out in the Russian Messenger or the Russian Herald, however you want to translate, Vestnik, back in, gosh, I've forgotten the year, 1865. I'll check that when I get home and see if I've got it right. So perhaps now, given the Onegin October schedule, I might put off Karenina till November, give myself a chance, you know, of keeping up, particularly as right now I'm supposed to be practicing and learning Masonic ritual for a meeting on, is it the 17th or the 18th of September, whichever is the Saturday. And I've got to learn more ritual than I've ever had to learn before. So that's kind of stressing me out a bit. I'm taking on two projects, I don't know. Watch this space anyway. So yeah, reading wise, August has been as good a month as any. I'm about to finish the third book in the Dark Tower series by Stephen King, The Wastelands, and I'm enjoying it immensely. I've read it before, probably I think 2012, something like that, and yeah, I've forgotten most of it. I remember the characters, and I remember Blaine the Mono, the choo-choo train in the Wastelands. I haven't quite got to that bit yet. I think we're just about to uncover Blaine the Mono. And Jake is now in the clutches of Gasher, a horrid man. And what I'll say is it's a lot more of a horror story than I remember. Particularly the scene with the haunted house and the doorway between the worlds. I mean, whoa, that's pure horror. And interestingly, the house next door to us, they had a big concrete barn, a big monstrosity of a building right next to our house, and the new owner has decided to knock it down. So when I look out my kitchen window, I see an old abandoned lot. That's what it makes me think of, a la The Wastelands, you know, where Jake finds the key and the rose. So every time I'm in the kitchen now, I picture that scene in the book. Yeah, interesting. So that's one that's on my TBR for this year. Whether I'll follow it up with Wizard and Glass, I don't know. Possibly not, because, you know, plans and that. So, other than that, I am about 40 pages to go in Moby-Dick for the first time. Started reading that with a read-along on Substack, run by Christina of Blogomatic or something. I can't remember the name of her Substack. I'll put it down below. And rather than stick to her schedule, I've decided I'm just going to crack on with it and finish it. I think it's scheduled to finish at the end of October, but I'm going to get it done, and I'm enjoying it immensely. I'm tandem reading that with the audiobook read by Frank Muller, which, interestingly, is the same narrator of the Dark Tower series. But you wouldn't know it, because he's so good at narration, doing voices and what have you. And the way that he narrates Moby-Dick is incredible. And the reason I picked that narrator, I mean, partly because I knew him from the Dark Tower, but also because in the film Warrior, or is it The Warrior, with Nick Nolte, who plays the father figure in that story, is it Tom Hardy, I think, is who plays the main character. I remember Nick Nolte as the father figure, and he plays an old alcoholic who listens to Moby-Dick, the audiobook, and it's the Frank Muller narration that he listens to. So that's an interesting little point. And also, John Irving's book, The Last Chairlift, Moby-Dick features heavily in that as a kind of plot device. And the main character's grandmother read the book out to the main character when he was a kid. And you can tell that John Irving is a fan, the way that he includes the story in his narrative. So there's all sorts of reasons for me to pick Moby-Dick up for the first time, and boy am I glad I did. So I look forward to sharing my thoughts when I get to the end. I've got an idea of what happens. I mean, it's an old enough book that I think most people know what happens. Call me Ishmael, one of the most famous opening lines of any novel. So, yeah. What else have I got going on? Helen Garner's collected diaries, which was an impulse buy when I was in Glasgow one day taken my wife's laptop to Apple for repairs, and I was reading a post put out by Petya Grady, and she was posting about journaling, and she posted a photograph, I think it was, of 3 journals that she has enjoyed reading. So I went to Waterstones to see which ones they had, and they had Helen Garner's. So I sit out in the mornings and I read 10 pages of that. I read, well, 10 pages or so of Moby-Dick, a chapter of War and Peace, along with Simon Haisell's Footnotes and Tangents, where we read a chapter a day. I did that with him in 2024. I'm doing it with him again 2026 because it's one of my favourite books. And The Dark Tower, so we've got that going on. And then this morning I read the introduction of the Bristol Press edition of Yevgeny Onegin, or Eugene Onegin, that one's called. Introduction by Anthony Briggs, who also translates the War and Peace copy that I've got, Penguin Classic Deluxe edition, which is the same as the Moby-Dick edition I have. I love the Penguin Classic Deluxe. Was it Penguin Deluxe Classics? Can't remember which way round they go. The ones with the deckled edging, yeah, they're lovely. So that's kind of the state of the union. I'm going to be starting David Copperfield in the near future as a buddy read with a friend. That's going to be a slow read because I don't have time to do fast reads. And I was looking at my TBR, I posted a photo of it on my Substack notes before I came out, and I'm not doing great. So David Copperfield is another book that's on there. The Wastelands and Moby-Dick also, so I'll be crossing 2 off. And I was thinking about fantasy. I spent my fantasy reads this year so far mood reading Lord of the Rings and Thomas Covenant, neither of which were on my list. The ones I want to get to, that I'm eager to get to, they're all sequels, and that kind of puts me off a wee bit. Although I read the first book in the series, I'm talking about 3 different series here. So we've got Dance of Shadows, what's the author's name? It will come to me. Rogba Payne. We've got Sons of Darkness, Gourav Mohanty, sequel to which is Dance of Shadows, confusingly. Rogba Payne's sequel is A Testimony of Blood. And we've got, is it Wall of Storms? The second book in the Dandelion Dynasty, first of which is Grace of Kings. So, even though I read all 3 of them last year, I feel that I want to read the first ones again before I go into the sequels. I mean, you don't get that when you read standalones. You can just jump right in. Or even when you read the first book of a series, you don't have to have any knowledge of what came before, because nothing came before. But going into the second book or the third book, and I remember doing this with Stormlight Archive, I remember doing it with Game of Thrones, or Song of Ice and Fire I should say, you know, having read some and then stopped and having to read those some again before continuing with the next one. And with Thomas Covenant, you know, I've read that multiple times, and before I read the last Chronicles I had to go back and read all 6 that preceded it, which I don't mind doing, you know, but it means that the 3 books that are all second books of a series on my TBR, I don't know, I kind of feel a wee bit like not picking them up, because I feel that I should reread the first books again first. And I will say that, you know, 8 months into 2026, looking back at 2025, Sons of Darkness by Gourav Mohanty is my book of 25. I mean, it stayed in my head as being an incredible fantasy novel. It's grimdark fantasy based on the Mahabharata, which is Indian lore, Indian mythology, about which I knew nothing. So imagine going into that book with a bit of knowledge about that story. It would probably be even better. But wow, what a book. And I believe that the second book doesn't build upon the first. I believe it's set at the same time as the first with different characters. So in that regard, maybe I wouldn't need to read the first one again. I mean, as a, you know, those little things you get at the beginning, previously on the West Wing, you know, that bit, which apparently Stephen Donaldson hates doing, the Thomas Covenant author. Is that enough to go into the next book in a series? Just to read a brief synopsis of what went before? Possibly is, you know. Possibly is. Testimony of Blood, I was just thinking about that walking along, because I listened to A Dance of Shadows up here, and so I often think of it when I'm up here. I mean, I listen to a lot up here, as you'll imagine, because I'm up here a lot and it's such an amazing place. But yeah, I was listening to that up here, and so I was thinking about it as an example of different fantasy. It's not derivative, same as Sons of Darkness. Same with Grace of Kings, they're all their own thing. And they're all like nothing I've read before. And they all have intrigued me to continue, so yeah, I'd like to get to them. I'd like to get to them. And the next one is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, which I'm led to believe is a fantastic series, but maybe I should sit on that and crack on with the ones I've got going. Anyway, I better stop rambling now and get back to my Masonic ritual, else it will never get learned. And stop this procrastination. I think the eclipse, such as it was, is over. What time are we at now? 25 past. It's certainly a lot brighter than it was 20 minutes ago. So, I hope this ramble's been of interest to you. Just a wee State of the Union as I walk and talk up here in the forestry above Lamlash. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.